I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes.
Yeah.
But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given. But, look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat.
Cheryl Miller has just shattered the silence. And in doing so, she said exactly what millions of frustrated fans have been thinking this whole time. Team USA, according to the basketball legend, never actually wanted Caitlin Clark. And she didn't mince a single word explaining the explosive reasons why. You can imagine what happened next. The entire internet absolutely erupted within minutes of her comments going live. Cheryl laid it all bare, exposing the dirty politics, the simmering jealousy, and what she describes as deliberate, calculated attempts to keep Caitlin Clark firmly in her place. This, right here, is the raw, unfiltered reality check that everyone in the basketball world desperately needed to hear. But before we dive deep into Cheryl's bombshell revelations, I need to know what you think. Drop a comment below right now. Do you believe Team USA is intentionally trying to hold Caitlin back and sabotage her rise? Or do you think this is all just a series of unfortunate coincidences? I genuinely want to hear your take on this whole situation.
Sky's the limit for her. To be around her, just talk about the type of person she is and how much she loves the game.
I'm going to be honest because it needs to be said. I can relate to that young lady, and I felt for her. I know what it's like to be hated. I know what it's like to be a Black woman and hated because of my
skin.
Color.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this young lady, I don't want to use hate, but despised. And people just having, she brought some on herself a little bit because she's cocky for a good reason.
Confident.
And I love that about her. But to watch the dynamics and the media, they had their narrative. And I was pleased and proud.
Let's be crystal clear about how this went down, because the narrative some people are trying to push just isn't what happened. Cheryl Miller didn't whisper her concerns. She didn't just hint around the subject or drop subtle clues. And she certainly didn't use that carefully crafted, soulless corporate speak, designed to avoid ruffling any feathers. No, she went on the record, loud and clear, and said exactly what millions of basketball fans have been screaming into the void for months on end. Caitlin Clark is being deliberately held back by the very people and institutions that should be lifting her up and celebrating her. And you have to understand, when a legend like Cheryl Miller speaks, people don't just hear it, they listen. This isn't some random sports commentator trying to generate clicks with a hot take. This is a basketball icon, a revered Hall of Famer, someone who knows from personal experience exactly what it's like to be the biggest name in women's basketball and to face resistance precisely because of that status. Cheryl's words were direct, cutting, and absolutely devastating. She said, and I quote, "Caitlin Clark changed basketball, and that is exactly why they fear her." Just let that statement sink in for a moment. Not that they're jealous of her, not that they don't quite grasp her impact. The word she used was fear. They fear her. They fear what she represents. They fear how unbelievably quickly she rose to the top. They fear that she didn't follow their pre-approved script or come up through their carefully controlled system. And maybe most importantly, they fear that she has become bigger than the institution itself, threatening the established order and the growth they thought they controlled.
You recently coached the WNBA All-Star game. You spent some time with Caitlin Clark.
From the very first day she stepped onto a professional court, Caitlin Clark brought something to women's basketball that the sport had been desperately, almost painfully, lacking for years. Massive, undeniable, mainstream attention. We're talking about television ratings that leagues and networks can only dream about. She brought completely sold-out arenas, not just at home, but on the road, everywhere she went. She brought entire families who had never once watched a WNBA game in their entire lives, all tuning in just to see for themselves what all the incredible hype was about. She single-handedly made women's basketball must-see appointment viewing for millions upon millions of people. And what exactly did she get in return for this monumental contribution? She got brutal, over-the-top hard fouls with absolutely zero consequences for the offenders. She got suspicious and inexplicable coaching rotations, where she'd be suddenly benched at the most crucial moments of a game. She received zero protection from the officials, game after game, as opponents made it their mission to physically target her. There was the infamous elbow incident that the entire world saw but somehow wasn't deemed a flagrant foul. And to top it all off, all we heard was excuse, after excuse, after excuse.
The fact that if I'm insecure, if I've got my own mental issues going on, who do I talk to? I don't regret being born when I was.
Right.
I'm in the right place at the right time. It's just been fascinating to watch these young ladies come up and now take the baton and take it to a different level.
She handled it in a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Cheryl Miller finally just came out and said what nobody with a position inside Team USA or the WNBA had the courage to admit publicly. They don't want Caitlin because she completely overshadows everyone else. And this wasn't Cheryl speculating or just reading between the lines. She laid it out in plain, undeniable terms. Every single time a young dynamic superstar emerges who threatens the established hierarchy, and every time someone becomes bigger than the very system that's supposed to contain them, that system inevitably pushes back hard. According to Cheryl, it's not even personal. It's deeply institutional, and Caitlin Clark didn't just get big. At only 22 years old, she became the global face of basketball. That is the perceived threat. That is what makes the old guard so deeply uncomfortable. Cheryl insists this isn't just her opinion. It's a conclusion based on years and years of behavior she has personally witnessed throughout her own legendary career and continues to see play out today. The pattern is depressingly consistent. Team USA, like so many established powerful organizations, operates with a rigid, unspoken hierarchy. There's a certain order to how things are done. Rookies are expected to pay their dues and wait their turn. Veterans get preferential treatment and respect. You're supposed to earn your spot gradually by working your way up through their system. But Caitlin, she blew past all of that. She arrived on day one already a household name, already massively influential, and already carrying more cultural weight and star power than players who'd been in the league for a decade or more. That kind of meteoric rise fundamentally disrupts the natural order. And as we all know, disruption makes people incredibly defensive.
In a graceful way as well. Some of your peers, they will recognize, her game, but they won't recognize her impact.
Right.
How can you separate the two? It's kind of hard, right?
And I used and Jax, you're absolutely right. And I was like, come on, you big dummies. Is she getting hyped? Yes.
Yeah.
But she was in the backyard. She was putting in the same time, sometimes maybe more than you were.
Right.
I can't fault her for what she was given, but look, as much as she was given, you can't tell me if that door would have swung the other way where she didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
Come on, folks are still waiting for her to fall.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep.
So, with that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Cheryl pointed out something absolutely crucial that many fans have noticed, but couldn't quite put into words. Team USA is inextricably connected to the exact same internal politics that we see playing out so visibly in the WNBA. Favoritism is real. Power circles and cliques exist. An intense loyalty to veterans, sometimes over merit, absolutely exists. There is a whole world of inside politics that often determines who gets the big opportunities and who gets left behind. And in that kind of environment, there's very little room for a new star who wasn't built, molded, and controlled by their system. Think about it. Caitlin wasn't developed through the USA basketball youth programs. She didn't come up through their established pipeline. She didn't follow their predetermined path to stardom. She exploded onto the scene from Iowa, with her own colossal fan base already in place, her own brilliant spotlight already shining on her, and her own powerful narrative already written, and that threatened the people who were used to being the sole gatekeepers controlling those narratives. This is where Cheryl really dropped the hammer. She alleged that Team USA had already made up its mind about Caitlin months before any official roster discussions even took place. The game plan, she claims, was clear from the very beginning: protect the veterans at all costs, keep the old guard as the public face of the program, and under no circumstances do you let someone new and unvetted get the keys to the kingdom. Caitlin Clark was never going to be welcomed with open arms. The plan was to manage her, control her, keep her quiet, and essentially handle her like a problem that needed to be solved rather than a generational talent that should be celebrated. But Caitlyn didn't play by those unspoken political rules. She just played basketball, the exact same way the entire world fell in love with her. And that's precisely when things got incredibly complicated for Team USA's leadership. Cheryl exposed what she believes is the real underlying fear. They were absolutely terrified that Caitlyn would become the undisputed star of Team USA before the Olympics even started. Just process that for a second. A 22-year-old player potentially outdrawing 10-year veterans in ratings, media attention and fan interest. A single athlete generating more buzz, more viral highlights, and more mainstream discussion than the entire rest of the roster combined. More social media engagement, more merchandise sales, more front-page news coverage. Team USA wasn't ready for that reality, and their system certainly wasn't designed to accommodate it. So instead of embracing this phenomenon and building the program around their most marketable, popular, and talented player, they pushed back, and the fans noticed everything. They saw the cold body language from certain teammates. They saw the bizarre player rotations that made zero basketball sense. They saw the unnecessary, overly aggressive hard fouls that went uncalled or were ridiculously downplayed as common fouls when they should have been flagrant. They saw the constant nitpicking criticism for things that other players were actively praised for doing. The double standards were so glaring they were impossible to ignore. Cheryl then said something that hit like a punch to the gut. "You don't treat the most impactful young player in basketball like this unless you're trying to send a message." And what was that message? Stay in your lane. Know your place. Don't you dare climb too fast. Don't outshine the people we've already decided are supposed to be the faces of this program. Do not disrupt the hierarchy we have spent years carefully building. But Caitlyn just kept climbing anyway. Every single game brought another incredible, jaw-dropping performance. Every shot from 30 feet out that somehow found the bottom of the net. Every brilliant no-look pass that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Every sold-out arena chanting her name. Every viral highlight that completely dominated social media for days. And each time she rose higher, the resistance only intensified. Cheryl revealed what many had long suspected but few in a position of power would dare say publicly. Caitlyn Clark is being punished for being great, not for being difficult, not for being problematic, not for breaking rules or causing locker room drama. She's being punished for being undeniably, historically, generationally great at the game of basketball. And that level of greatness makes people deeply uncomfortable when it doesn't fit neatly into their predetermined plan. Millions of fans felt this in their bones throughout the season. Parents watching at home with their kids felt it. The young girls who look up to Caitlyn as their hero definitely felt it. Even NBA players noticed and started tweeting about the obvious targeting and the shocking lack of protection from the officials. But no one from inside the system, no one with Cheryl Miller's unimpeachable credibility and massive platform, had actually said it out loud until now. That is what makes this moment so incredibly significant. Then Cheryl addressed the jersey number controversy, which on the surface might seem petty, but in reality represents something much deeper. She said Team USA handled it horribly. Instead of having a respectful conversation with Caitlyn about the situation, instead of making her feel valued and working to find a solution that worked for everyone, they made it look like she was being difficult for wanting something every single athlete wants: consistency and respect. They made her feel like an inconvenience, like she was causing problems by having the audacity to care about the number she's worn her entire career, and that has become synonymous with her global brand. That's when fans absolutely lost their minds. Because it confirmed what they had been seeing all along. This was never about logistics or policies or standard procedures. This was about putting Caitlyn in her place. It was about reminding her that she doesn't run things, they do. It was about asserting control over someone who had become too powerful, too quickly. And Cheryl called it out for exactly what it was. The third bombshell Cheryl dropped was that Team USA was completely divided internally about some coaches desperately wanted her on the roster and recognized her immense value. Others didn't want her taking the spotlight away from the established players. Some teammates supported her and welcomed the incredible attention she brought to the sport. Others resented the media focus constantly being on one person instead of the collective. Some executives loved the ratings boost and the flood of new sponsor interest. Others hated the media circus and preferred the program to just operate quietly the way it always had. A divided room, a rising superstar, and a massive, inescapable spotlight created the perfect storm for total dysfunction. This was never about basketball. This was pure, unadulterated politics. And Cheryl's voice reportedly cracked with emotion when she said, "Caitlyn Clark plays the game the right way and she is being punished for it." That single line resonated across the entire basketball community, because it so perfectly captured the sheer absurdity and injustice of the whole situation. Here you have a player who does everything you could possibly want. She works incredibly hard, She makes her teammates better. She handles her media responsibilities with professionalism and grace. She shows up ready to compete every single game. She doesn't create off-court drama. She represents the sport beautifully. And somehow, she's the one being treated like a problem. Cheryl emphasized that this toxic pattern extended far beyond just Team USA decisions. This was about the entire season. The brutal fouls that never resulted in suspensions for the offenders. The shoves and cheap shots that were called incidental contact when they were clearly intentional. The systematic targeting that officials somehow never seemed to notice despite it being painfully obvious to everyone watching from home. The blatant disrespect from opponents who felt comfortable taking cheap shots because they knew there would be no real consequences from the league. The jealousy that manifested itself in passive-aggressive comments during post-game interviews. The fake narratives pushed by some in the media about her being overrated or only successful because of favorable officiating or weak competition. And through all of it, a deafening silence from the people in positions of power who should have spoken up to defend her. The WNBA didn't protect her adequately. Team USA didn't prioritize her. And certain media members actively tried to diminish her historic accomplishment. Cheryl Miller watched all of this unfold and finally decided that enough was enough. Someone with real credibility needed to call it what it was. Someone who understood the intricate politics of women's basketball from the inside needed to finally expose the truth. What makes Cheryl's comments so uniquely powerful is that she's been exactly where Caitlyn is now. She was the biggest name in women's basketball in her era. She faced her own version of resistance and jealousy and people trying to keep her in her place. She understands the immense unique pressure that comes with being the face of an entire sport. She knows what it feels like when your own success makes other people uncomfortable. And she is not going to stay silent while she watches history repeat itself with Caitlyn Clark. Cheryl also addressed the broader context that many casual fans might not fully understand. She talked about how incredibly different the pressure is for this generation compared to when she played. The relentless social media scrutiny, the massive brand responsibilities, the financial expectations, the constant public commentary, the overwhelming mental health challenges of being under a microscope. She said today's players are dealing with things her generation never even had to imagine. And that makes what Caitlyn has accomplished even more impressive. But instead of that pressure being acknowledged and support being provided, Caitlyn faced additional obstacles that were completely unnecessary and entirely political. Cheryl made it crystal clear that the resistance Caitlyn has encountered has had nothing to do with her ability or her character. It was purely about powerful people protecting their positions, maintaining their control, and flat-out refusing to adapt to a changing landscape where a new star had emerged, who was bigger than they were comfortable with. The reaction to Cheryl's comments was immediate, and it was massive. Social media exploded with people expressing their relief that finally, someone with real credibility was saying what they had been thinking for months. Former players started speaking up, sharing their own observations that confirmed Cheryl's point. Media members who had previously been hesitant to rock the boat suddenly felt more comfortable discussing the obvious politics at play. And the fans who had felt gaslit for months, being told they were just imagining the targeting and the disrespect, finally felt validated. In the wake of all this, Team USA officials have been noticeably quiet, which is incredibly telling in itself. When someone of Cheryl Miller's stature makes allegations this serious, you would expect an immediate and forceful denial if they weren't true. The silence suggests there's a lot of truth to what she's saying, and they're now scrambling to figure out how to manage the public relations nightmare without actually admitting fault. So there you have it. Cheryl Miller said what needed to be said, and the basketball world is still processing the fallout. Caitlyn Clark deserves so much better than the treatment she's received. And thanks to a legend speaking truth to power, now everyone knows it. If you appreciate someone finally having the courage to speak out, smash that like button and make sure you subscribe for more honest basketball coverage. What is your reaction to Cheryl's explosive comments? I need to hear it. Drop it in the comments below.